What's up, everybody? Welcome back to your favorite New York Jets subscription podcast, Badlands. I'm your host, Joe Caporoso, back in the booth with PK for the third time in 30 hours or so. I think I'm going to count through it in my head. We had Sunday AM coffee. We had the Garrett emergency pod from us. We had the Garrett emergency pod from Will. That's 3. We had the other guys. That's 4. We had Sauce emergency pod from me and you. That's 5. We had Sauce emergency pod from Will and Zach. That's 6. This will be number 7 for your Wednesday morning, our normal flagship pod with PK stepping in for Connor. Connor will be on the feed tomorrow night, talking analytics, talking Sauce, talking Garrett. Doesn't get the full week off. He's going to pop in a little bit midweek, and then Thursday we'll be back on the feed. So, again, if you are watching this or this portion of it on Instagram or YouTube, there's a lot of content at patreon.com/BadlandsTOJ. We're having a live show August 23rd at Stout, week 1, to get you ready for Jets Steelers. Season preview, giving away tickets, giving away jerseys, open bar, all of us on stage riffing. There's things I'm forgetting, Paul. What else do we need to promote for between the live show and what else is going on? There's too much going on in a good way.
There's way too much going on. We're scaling this thing up as fast as we can. It's awesome. We're having a lot of fun. I took a shower since the last time we potted.
I haven't. I'm in the same gear here.
So, hey, we got a ton of stuff happening. I think the live show is really going to kind of like send us into the next stratosphere, so to speak. And really like, you've been talking about for a while now, like imagine what this would be like if the Jets started winning games, right? And it feels like we might actually be getting closer to it now. So
it was a good 2 days. The vibes are right. I'm going to call this episode the Vibe Mailbag Edition because we have a gazillion Discord questions I want to answer in the pod this week because Connor has a different format for War Room this week. So that this is going to be our place to answer them. So I'm keeping the glasses on. I'm going to read it on my laptop instead of reading it on my phone so we can get as many as possible. Let's see here. I'm going to start all the way at the top from Alec, especially after the comments of Jets front office staffers saying they were shocked Garrett didn't request a trade and that he did all the right things this offseason, showed up to every camp and spoke highly of the staff. Did you actually expect the AG impact to be this good this quickly, pending on-field results? And does this carry over to guys like Simpson, AVT, others to look at Garrett's contract and take more of a team-friendly extension to still add pieces? Is the belief in AG real? I don't think it's a wrong take. I think it's an optimistic take in a good way. I do think having a guy like Aaron Glenn helps and carries some weight. He played, he scouted, he's coached, he's coming from a successful place in Detroit. I think the vision that he's selling is being bought from what we've seen so far, or Garrett and Sauce don't get signed at the timeline that they did. I don't think Sherwood gets signed at the timeline that he did. He could have probably went to Atlanta with Ulbrich for more money, and he's here. So I think the early signs are very good for this. The on-field results over the course of the next few years will really determine that. But am I more optimistic now that the Jets get a good deal done for themselves with John Simpson in season? Definitely. Same with AVT, same with anyone who would be next because they've done it twice now. They have a history of allowing me to establish a little confidence. And Glenn deserves credit. We've said Glenn is the front man of this operation. Muji also deserves credit. He's the GM. He gets the half credit here too. So I think especially the structure of Garrett's contract, really encouraging. And even with Sauce, like they just paid him over what they had to. They didn't pay him an extra $3-4 million a year. So I get the optimism, and I don't think it's out of bounds. What do you think, PK?
Well, I'll answer the one part of the question first, which was, did you think it would happen this fast with Aaron Glenn? Bluntly, no. Like, I didn't. I believed in him, and I thought that he would actually be a culture changer. I didn't think it would happen this fast. I thought, if I'm Garrett Wilson, like, maybe I want to, like, hang around for a year to see if this actually materializes into something. Because in the 3 years that he's been here, he's heard it a lot, and he hasn't really been shown much. And so I was kind of the mind that like that one might drag on a little longer and the Sauce one would probably get done first. So no, I didn't think it would happen this fast. I'm pleasantly surprised that it has happened this fast. I think the other thing, and you kind of hinted at this, we didn't have to pay the Jets tax on either one of these contracts.
Yep.
And while it is a team friendly deal, I don't think it's fair to frame it as if Garrett Wilson got hoodwinked by the Jets either, right? Like it's a really good two-way deal for both of these players. It's the right price at the right time, and there was no Jets tax paid, which I think we're like, just to be operating like a normal franchise is great. And on the last part about does it bode well for other players, I think it does. Like, these guys are still just people at the end of the day. They have you become friends with your coworkers, right? And so when two guys who are as good on the field and as good off the field as Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner get rewarded and get paid and stick around, like, yeah, that I think that's infectious a little bit. And other guys are going to be like, you know what? I do want to kind of stick around to see where this thing goes from here. So will they evaluate Simpson and AVT as guys that they value as highly as Garrett and Sauce and need to stay? That is kind of the blind item here. But does it make it more likely that the players will be willing to negotiate? Yeah, I think it does.
I agree. I mean, it's a good point in that the no jet tax is a nice thing and a refreshing thing. We're so used to that jet tax, and to not have it, it's refreshing. Next one from Jersey Jets. We always have to talk about this every few months. Given the current needs on the roster, where does the trading of JFM to bring in Reddick decision rank on Joe Douglas's wall of shame? Listening to you guys talk about all the guys on the roster the Jets should extend, I don't think we appreciate how much better of a situation Glenn is walking into than Saleh. When Saleh was hired in January 2021, was there a single player on the roster we knew we wanted the Jets to extend long-term? Two-part question. I mean, the JFM thing was just a disaster from the moment it happened. I think it's one of our most listened to pods ever, and that includes also on YouTube, because we were all viscerally like, what the hell? Because one of the things Dan's always done a good job of, particularly in Buck the Trend, is point out just how unique and versatile he was to that scheme. And he's a good player and does a lot of the dirty work. And Reddick was just a complete opposite of that. And how much better would you feel about the D-line if they had him? It was one of those moves that I don't think people would rattle off the top of their head as like one of the three worst things Joe Douglas did, but it very well may be up there. It's not like drafting Zach Wilson second overall. It's not like failing to fix the offensive line and trying to fix it with like Ryan Khalil and Dwayne Brown and some of the other things that just, did not work at all. But yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. And they bet on Reddick, and that ended up being a horrible bet. And I can't wait till the Jets play against him in week 3. On the second part of it, yeah, I think Glenn it's certainly a better roster situation, right? The Jets were coming off the Gase years. They were 2-14, I believe, off the top of my head that season, and were very close to going 0-16. There wasn't much there. Now, Saleh was given a lot of time, right? So I think being patient with Saleh in 2021, being patient with him after they lost their final 6 games and missed the playoffs in 2022, fair enough. I think waning patience after they forfeited the season after Rodgers got hurt on the 4th play. And then last year, the team just looked totally overmatched. And I think he went into golf bro friend mode, and it was kind of apparent to everyone. And here we are. So Glenn has a little more to work with. I think Glenn is a nice contrast personality-wise. This is very common in Jets history, the sort of seesaw of personalities. Like, you went from the disciplinarian and Grow to the players coach and Herm, to the disciplinarian and Mangini, to the players coach and Rex, and back and forth and back and forth. And Bowles was a little bit in the middle, but he was a defensive guy. Then to Gase, the offensive nerd, whereas Bowles was probably more of a players coach. And now with Saleh, you had the guy who was all the gifts and yelling on the sideline, and then ended up being more friends with everyone, to someone who I think will be more of a disciplinarian with Glenn. So what do you think of those two?
Well, as long as we don't get the 1,000-yard or 1,000-mile stare from Bob Saleh on the sideline this year, I'll be just happy about that. So if Glenn can be a tad more animated, that would be helpful.
Yes.
I think on the John Franklin Myers thing, it's interesting he gets brought up here, because I just was scrolling Twitter right before we got on here, and he retweeted yesterday a clip from a Denver sports station saying, why are we not talking about John Franklin Myers getting a contract extension? Because we got him on the cheap from the Jets last year. And he retweeted something very political, and it's all good, right? He was saying hey, everybody can get paid. It's no big deal. But then now the fans are piling on top of it and saying, we got him on the cheap last year and we haven't rewarded him. We're going to lose him in the offseason. And then he retweeted that and said, one team's loss is another team's treasure. Just ask the Rams and the Jets. Right. And so it's building again with John Franklin Myers, which is interesting. So there is a situation where he could shake free again next year. Now he'll be on the tail end of his career at that point, and he probably won't command as big of a deal, or whoever does sign the deal might be overpaying a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I think when you put everything together, like there were a few at the front end for Joe Douglas that were really good. He got good returns for Sam Darnold. He got good returns for Jamal Adams. In a lot of ways, those trades helped build what we just extended now, right? But to take away that critical piece that I think was more valuable than what was shown on the stat sheet proved to be kind of like pulling out the important Jenga block, right? That knocks the whole tower down. Like that was way more valuable than I think most people realized. And Dan, like you said, was on it really early. In terms of what Glenn has coming in, I don't know if I will agree and say that it's a better situation. I think when Saleh came in, there were good vibes. Like people felt good about what was happening here. And maybe I'm misunderstanding the question a little bit, but I think that the roster is in a place now that we could say is equitable, but I'm not sure that I can say that it's better off. But I think that the coaching, and I've been saying this for weeks now, months even, we are going to see the value of coaching this year, because I think with basically the same kind of level of roster, we're going to get so much more performance out of it and so much better mileage out of the players that we do have. And I think we'll all be like, oh my God, this is what it's like to have a good coach.
Yeah. I think another thing that is harder for Glenn than Saleh is Glenn is inheriting a team that is coming off having like Super Bowl expectations 2 years in a row and had to pivot off of everything that came with that and with a 41-year-old quarterback and everything around him. Whereas Saleh came in with, I believe that they had 2 first-round picks that year, right? That they took Zach, they took AVT. So, and everyone was ready for like, you have forever for this rebuild because you're not Adam Gase. We know you were terrible last year. You got your 2 first-round picks. You got, your big free agency period where they paid Corey Davis. And that sounds silly at the time, but that was a big contract for the Jets then. And like they were spending and they had the 2 first-round picks, like I said. So it was, in some ways, Glenn is walking into a bit of a more challenging situation because the Jets were, the favorite to win the division last year and a primetime team. And now they're back to the D game on CBS week 1, or not week 1 because they're playing Rodgers, but you get the point.
And if for no other reason, then the playoff drought is now
that much longer
than it was, right?
Yeah. It's that much more urgent. And Glenn also has the historic reputation to live up to, being a player here and coming in with that goodwill, which in some ways is a blessing and a curse.
And the Parcells connection also does the same thing where it's like, hey, it's really good, but it kind of adds a little bit of an extra pressure.
Absolutely. All right, I'll bundle these next 2 from M. Bodine and from Shogun 88. When do we start constructing the Mooj statue? And would you call the Niners about Jennings as a possible receiver too? The Mooj statue, by the way, would have the too tight white button down open with the Montauk Muji look, definitely. We're not going to give him a statue yet. You know how we feel here about general managers at Badlands and Turn on the Jets. It's one of the things that people always get on us for, that we're too hard on GMs. And we're cautiously optimistic. Muji gets a statue when he breaks the playoff drought and ostensibly wins a playoff game or 2. Like even Tannenbaum's not got a statue and he got to the goddamn AFC Championship game twice. Let's get a winning record. And then we'll talk about Muji's statues. I'm very happy with him the last 2 days. I probably went from, and you said this well on the last pod, went from like quiet unease to like a little more confidence after these last couple of days. And we'll reassess throughout the season. I like Jennings a lot as a player. I don't know like the honest logistics of that really happening. Like I love Romeo Dobbs. I love Alec Pierce. Like, I don't know if these teams are like ready to like go in business with the Jets. Like the Niners have had a lot of turnover. They lost Debo. Ayuk's coming back from an injury. Are they really going to move off of Jennings? Maybe they like Pearsall a lot, so they're confident to do that. Like it depends what the price is. Some of the things I've seen floated, like Jennings, you're probably giving up like a conditional mid-round pick or 2, like later picks. Like these are not going to be early round picks for him. He's a perfect complementary receiver who's made plays in big games repeatedly and would immediately become the second best receiver on the Jets roster. So, if you told me the Jets like traded a 4th and a 7th for him, I'd be like, yeah, that's good. That's going to make life easier for Justin Fields. And he's not that advanced in age yet where you're like, that didn't make any sense at all. He's not like Keenan Allen or Amari Cooper. I don't think it's going to happen, but I wouldn't hate it if it happened.
On the Mooj statue, I think when and if it is built, it needs to have a button-up shirt that's not part of the statue. Like it's
on. Yeah, there's a guy who changes it every day,
exactly.
like puts
it
on.
Blow in the wind a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So it has to be separate. I think. Look, I am happy with I'll call it the brain trust, right? Like I don't know how much of this is attributable to Mooj alone. I don't know how much is it to Glenn. I don't know how much goes to Spielman. I don't know how much goes to the support staff, but the brain trust as a whole, the unit is operating together right now really well, and I'm appreciative of that. And it's nice to have a unit that operates together well instead of just kind of having one point of failure and like, hey, we have the guy, right? So I'm good with that. As far as Jennings, I'm like, there's a part of me that's like, beware the guy that wants to leave a, at least on paper, pretty good situation to come to, at least on paper, a less than that type situation, right? And so there's a double cost associated with Jennings because he wants a new contract, and so you're giving up the trade compensation. You're also likely paying him. And while I do like him as a player, I'm just not sure that the juice is worth the squeeze on that one. And I won't wax poetic on it for 10 minutes here. I'm just like, that one to me is just like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably one I wouldn't be planning on happening. I would expect the Jets to be starting Garrett Wilson and Josh Reynolds week 1 at receiver, with hopefully Mason Taylor at tight end. Let's get that contract done now. Next one from Bob.